My namaskars to you all. This is a very great opportunity for India to uh, have the presidency of G20 and the various vertical groups which are there along with G20, like Labor 20, that is from 20 countries, the labor organizations coming together and deliberating. Then women 20, youth 20, business 20, think tank 20, like that various verticals are there. The C20, that is civil societies 20, has its own a very unique place in this, because these are basically the civil societies which come together, organize themselves, associate themselves, and they take up the topics which concern the various sectors of the society, and they do a lot of consultations with various stakeholders and make recommendations and take it to G20 leaders. So this year, as India has got the presidency of G20, even the presidency of C20 is with India, and we are really happy that Mata Amritanandamayi Devi is the chairperson for this C20 group. And India, with her civilizational experience of thousands of years together, passing through various time periods, various vicissitudes, uh, has rich experience in how to look at the problems of the society and work for it. Uh, so we are really happy that in the work of civil societies that is going on since a few years, this year India will be adding her own flavor to it, or her own addition to it. As we know that civil societies have, uh, that compassion or that concern for various sectors of the society, and that is how they come, they work, they form themselves into a civil society, or the more known word for many is non-governmental organization to some extent, and they work for the society. So many times I just say that it is less of a profession, or it should be less of a profession and more of a mission. That because of the concern for the society, we come together and we work. Now in C20, this is what is expected, that the topics which are taken earlier, they continue. But of course, in the new context, the new developments or the new challenges, various other additions are done to these themes which are taken up for consultations. This year, C20 India has taken total 14 working themes, and many are continued from the last year. But we also know that from earlier years, but we also know that earlier means last 2-3 years there was COVID. So few topics were related to COVID, which we have dropped this year, and we have taken the topics which have always concerned the civil societies. Now coming to our today's theme of deliberation, that is diversity, inclusion, mutual respect. We know that civil societies the world over have always been concerned about the human rights, and also about the inclusion, the equity, and they recommend for that, they work for that. And that is how there are various topics which have been discussed earlier on inclusion, on diversity, or on human rights. But coming specifically to today's topic, uh, we know this topic has been discussed not necessarily in C20. A part of it was discussed in earlier C20s, but it is in public discourse since a few years, and that is called as diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, that is DEI. And this DEI is being discussed and being applied in universities and all that, and in various ways. But as the working started of this DEI, that is diversity, equity, inclusion, it was found that there are certain difficulties were noticed. That is, human rights is the concern, but the very extreme application of diversity, equity, inclusion, or in order to promote the inclusion, what mutual jealousy or hatred was provoked, not maybe consciously, but maybe unconsciously, whatever. So, because of that, the society, instead of having a harmonious acceptance of each other, actually, it led to exclusion of some other communities. This is what is happening. Another thing, the means many such drawbacks are what we intended. That is what the civil societies intended, what they wanted. But actually, what was happening? Seeing that, we decided to improve upon the topic, and that is diversity, inclusion, mutual respect. Whatever we want to include, whosoever are the ignored things or whatever topics are there, we have to see to it that everyone is included, but not at the cost of something else, or it should not lead to more animosity, and therefore we thought that the harmony aspect which was missing, we should focus on that. And that is why we have improved upon this topic and taken it as a working theme. It is diversity, inclusion, mutual respect. So when uh, things are diverse, and things are diverse, variety is the plan of nature. We know on a tree, no two leaves are exactly the same. They may look similar, but they are never the same. Same way, each one, as generally we say in coordinate geometry, each point has its own geometrical coordinates, and no two points have same coordinates. So same way, every individual is unique in its own way. So diversity is the plan of nature. But that diversity becomes acceptable, that diversity can lead to harmony only if we take the things in long view, as well as we also have mutual respect. And that mutual respect can come only if we have that vision of oneness. That is, the whole universe is interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. Uh, it's not that somebody is different from me or unconnected to me. Today, whether it is quantum physics, whether it is ecology, whether it is cellular biology, various subjects are realizing this interconnectedness, interrelatedness, and interdependence of the universe. And therefore, uh, when any topic that we civil societies want to take, this oneness, and therefore a sort of respect to all, and also the a compassion, a feeling of fellow feeling, has to be the basis of everything. And that is what India really intends to add to all the themes that we are discussing in uh, C20 14 working groups. Now, when we say diversity, inclusion, mutual respect, uh, we found some 9 points we had to take. We have taken into account through our discussions and all. And further, we will be taking these points and we shall discuss with many others. The sub-themes were already told, but uh, what was the basis of we arrived at those sub-themes? That's what I would like to share with you. First and foremost is, though we talked of inclusion, in earlier, though we talked of inclusion, actually what has happened is it led to exclusion of certain. person. Means if we are insisting on including something, we look down upon something which is not like us. Not like us, it is different. So it should not happen. The inclusion is everyone gets included, everyone is part of this society. So that should be the purpose. And therefore, the inclusion should not lead to denial of someone else or the disrespect or the exclusion. Secondly, to give for example, when the transgender issue under this same topic slowly is being discussed all over the world, and now it is also going as part of education and all that. In that, the children are made to decide their gender, uh, which because it was felt that the child will be then spared the emotional upheaval, and which sometimes leads to depression or even to suicide. But actually the data was very, very minimal, and yet the decision was taken, and we are seeing what has happened. The commercialization entered into that, the pharmaceutical commercialization. And today the children are goaded to undergo irreversible surgeries to change their body. And once it is changed, their whole life is lost. We don't allow a minor to vote. We don't allow a minor to enter into property, dealings. But we are allowing a minor to take the decision to change his body because the commercialization has set in. And therefore, instead of uh, means taking care of human rights, what has happened is we are trampling on the human rights of the children to live properly, to understand the issues properly once the maturity comes. And that is what that also needs to be catered to. Then another thing that we saw, that in diversity and inclusion, the topic which was discussed earlier, only the individuals are considered. That is, a person is taken only as an individual. Maybe that is the need in contract based societies, where everything is only contract. Even marriage is a contract, everything is a contract. So in contract based society, individual, that is focusing only on individual and formulating the recommendations may be the need, but that is not so in relation based society. In many countries, many civilizations, an individual is not just an individual. He is or she is part of a family, part of a community, part of a tradition, part of a locality, part of a civilization, and as such, of course, we are all part of humanity. So all these linkages are to be taken into account today. Even the science talks the same thing. Science says even the subatomic particle cannot be defined in itself. It is defined only by its relations with others. So the relations become important. And therefore, when we talk of rights, when we are talking about this diversity inclusion, we cannot just focus on the individual. A person who is part of relation based society, he has a right, he very much has a right to be part of a family. He wants to be a part of family. He does not want to live alone. He wants to be part of a community, part of a cultural tradition. But disregarding all those identities, if we are focusing only individual identity, gender identity, then actually we are doing disservice to that person. So we have to take also into account that it's not just a contract-based society, but it's a relation-based society. Even in contract-based society, individuals have linkages, and those linkages also matter to him, and whether he realizes or not, they are required for wholesome growth of a human being. Another problem which at present humanity is facing, it is short termism. even we see in political field, everything is decided only up to the next election. So what is to be done? The whole good of the humanity is not taken into account. So decisions are short-termism. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are recommending, whatever we are going to implement as policy in our universities, in our society, what will be its long-range impact? That if we don't take into account, then there will be, the families will be disbanded, they will be disintegrated, communities are disintegrated, the nature is exploited. Therefore, whatever is to be done, its long range impact is to be considered. So that is what, when we talk of mutual respect, it means that we are respecting the families, the society, the nature. So whatever recommendations we do, they should take into consideration this. Then there is another problem which we want to course correct by adding mutual respect to the topic. And that is, there is universalization of certain definitions. So a universal definition is done, and that is what is applied to many others. I will give just one or two examples. In 1951, United Nations, what is economic development? It decided. How it is achieved? It decided. So it was a universal definition done for all the civilizations. And therefore, in its 1951 resolution, United Nations said that as long as the countries follow the ancient philosophies and ancient traditions, the countries cannot have economic development. And therefore, this all will have to be destroyed, dismantled. Though the process is painful, we will have to take to it. Fortunately, United Nations realized it after, say, 50 years. And then they said that no, there is no uniform fit-all model for economic development. Each nation has its own cultural traditions, and as per that, the nation has to develop. So this is what United Nations realize. So same way, whether it is economic development, whether it is religion or tradition, no, there cannot be a single universal definition of it, good or bad or whatever it is. But because of such definitions, then we discard certain communities. We say your religion is primitive. We say, you are outdated. We say this tradition, cultural tradition is no more required. And that is how it is taught. And somewhere that community gets in a way excluded from the process of confident development. And that is what there should not be universalized definitions. We have to take the context into account to decide what should be the text for development of that community. Similarly, revisiting of certain terms is required. As the world is more connected with each other, global village and all people use the word. When that is there, we cannot go by the terms which were coined and are still being applied for various inclusion process in various countries. For example, the minority, the minority term we apply. But today we cannot decide a minority in national context. When the whole world is connected, we should actually decide. So when we are talking of inclusion, it is not a minority in national context, but it has to be a global minority. If really it is a global minority, then we have to see how the process of inclusion should be done for them so that they are not left behind in the process of development. Thus, some revisiting of the terms also may be required. Similarly, insistence of uniform methods, how to solve, or what is women empowerment. If you do this, then women empowerment is there in this country. Or human rights, this is how it is there. That's how till now it has been that we civil societies we define what is human right, we define what is women empowerment as per our experience, and then maybe we try to apply it for the whole world. But now the time has come, as we know, in 2005, the G20 nations, as the United Nations realized, the G20 nations also realized that there is no uniform fit all method for economic development. So as G20 leaders have realized, I think the time has come for C20 also to realize it, that we should not prescribe the uniform methods for all to define the development, the human rights, the women empowerment, and such topics. So when we are talking of diversity, inclusion, mutual respect, what really we are saying is, it is not only the diversity of people, but it is also diversity of interpretations, diversity of methods applied for human development. And we must respect each other's methods. So if any civilization is having a different method, we must respect that method. Uh, and coming to the last point, very important point. Sorry, one more, two more points. And when we talk of inclusion, but there are many native traditions, or better say, traditional communities all over the world. They have no voice, whether in United Nations, or they are not even much even understood. So they need interlinking, they need support of the whole civil societies to develop confidently in their own tradition. So this is also the real inclusion we need to do, not only of individual but also of traditional communities. And coming to the last point, this is India's presidency. So we don't believe, and almost all civilizations don't believe, as Jesus Christ had said, that man cannot live by bread alone. So man is not only material being, he is also a spiritual being. The ultimate aim of human life is not just the economic development or the material development, but it is also the spiritual development. And that is why we have taken the civil societies this year have chosen this motto, you are the light. We start with ourselves, and what is our aim? It is ultimately loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, sarve bhavantu sukhina. It is well-being of all. So taking the spiritual development of the human being into account, even the material development or focus on that needs to be moderated. It's only then everyone will have everything that is required. The greed will be moderated, and the real human development can take place. So thinking all these points, our working group has decided the sub-themes, which already was shown to you in PowerPoint, that taking care of those who are born unfortunate. Also, the issue of what nowadays it is called as LGBTQ. Of course, there may be some people have different inclinations, but we have to take into account that what is natural, what is required, for the perpetuation of the society, of the families, of the human race, also cannot be ignored. Then there is also the need of taking, the need of supporting the self-confidence and the work of the native communities in India. Or native is not the right word, we should say the traditional communities in India, who are following their cultural traditions since time immemorial, and also including all the native traditions all over the world. And fifth is respecting various methods. Uh, and so in that, some more sub themes are there, which already we have seen. And thus, this C20, when we are dealing with this topic, let us take into account the law, not the short termism, but a long term view. Also, the spiritual development of a person, the harmony of the society, the diversity as the very truth of existence, and also the interconnectedness of the universe of the existence as the truth of existence. So I will conclude. Swami Vivekananda had said, the truth does not pay homage to society. The society has to pay homage to truth or perish. So the truth of existence is we are all interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. We can only work for the harmony in the society, and but diversity is also the fact of existence. So everyone must have its own place and respect, and only then the human society, instead of getting perished, it will really go in long way and realize its divine nature. So with these words, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mananya.